Yeah. Hello. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Okay. My name is Samuel Ayabamji, and I'll be taking a graphic design class for Tech for Teens this year. Uh, Alright. So for the past few weeks, we've been taught the basics of computer and how the technology works. Yeah. And so now we are at graphic design. So in this course, we'll be we'll be talking about introduction to design, the principles and elements of design, and type of designs. Alright. So this particular class is for everyone, right? So it's for you to know whether you are interested in graphic design. So by the end of this class, you should be able to know, I think with some other guidance too, you should be able to know whether you should go for the graphic design track. And by next week, we're going to start fully on graphic design. But today, I'll be teaching everyone the basics, the introduction to graphic design. Uh, Get right into it, yeah. Introduction to graphic design. Now, what is graphic design? Graphic design is the art and practice of creating visual content to communicate messages. It combines images, text, colors, and layouts to make information clearer, more attractive, and more effective. Okay. So, even though many of us might not understand what graphic design is or might think we don't know what graphic design is, I'm very sure you've met it one way or the other. There is graphic design everywhere, yeah? At its core, graphic design is about problem solving, using creativity and design principles to capture attention, guide viewers, and deliver ideas in a way that is both functional and aesthetically pleasing. A good example of this is, in fact, this class right now. You all are looking at a screen right now. This could have been a PDF, a Word document where I just write everything in Times Roman. But no, I designed these slides so that you guys can relate more. It's more attractive, and instead of just reading words, there are those icons, play of fonts, just to complement the design. Yeah, it's everywhere from your movie poster to your phone, your UI UX design, everything. Marketing, advertising, digital media, publishing, packaging, and user experience design. So as we go in this class, we'll be talking about all this type of design. Alright. History of design. Now, graphic design started long ago with cave paintings, hieroglyphics, and handwritten manuscripts. The invention of printing press in the 1400s made design more widespread through books and posters, and in the 20th century it grew quickly with advertising and branding. Today, thanks to computers and digital tools, graphic design is everywhere. Now, when most people hear the word graphic design, what they think about, the first image that comes to mind is all these digital designs like your billboard, your social media design. But in fact, graphic design is more than that, or let me say, graphic design in itself is more than that. No? Uh, during the cave, during the prehistoric period, the only way these people were able to communicate were drawings and writings on walls. You can see this image over here. So the way they communicate, the way they express, the way they pass information to other people without words, yeah, is through painting of walls, writing of walls. So they use mediums like sticks and blood to paint on walls to communicate to people. Then When you go to the 1400, there was an invention of the printing press where you could actually type. But it's nothing compared to what we have today. But as at then, it was a very great invention. Yeah. So they went from writing manually, writing with their hands, to having a machine where you can type neatly, something like a typewriter. There are also other type of printing machines. Now, when we go to the 20th century, which we are right now, I think we are all familiar with it. With all these digital designs, things like advertising and branding. You have your computers, your graphic design is basically everywhere. Your web design, your app, your packaging, social media. Like I said, we'll be talking about these things as we go on. Yeah. So here we are, type of design. Now there are different type of design. And when I say design now, we've gone past the prehistoric period and the print. We are now at the digital graphic design. Yeah, we're not just digital now, but since 20th century, the modern graphic design. Now, these are the popular type of design. First, we have brand identity design. So what brand identity design means is creating a visual identity for brands and organizations. For example, I think we all know big companies like MTN. I think we all know the color that MTN uses. MTN uses yellow. That's for MTN. That's the brand. That's the brand strategy. Blue uses, I think, green. Yes, blue uses green. So for all these big brands, there's a particular color attributed for each. So apart from color, we have typography, we have style, we have images. All these brands they have their own set of visual guidelines, which are their visual identity. Uh, uh, a good example of this is Neon Academy. If you can notice all the designs that have been coming through Neon. There has been a consistency of the color green, uh, purple, then dark blue. Now brand. That's the brand identity, a visual brand identity for neon. So apart from colors, there are also other elements that are attributed to brand identity design. Now we also have marketing and advertising design. These are everywhere today. Your billboards, your flyer design, all these uh, tracks. These are marketing and advertising design. You go on the road and you see all these big people advertising maybe a product or an event or something like that. There are people who do this. Yeah, you have UI UX design. So this is about designing the interface for websites, mobile applications, or software applications, and also any type of digital product. So all the apps you use, the interface it tends to interact with is a UI UX design. So of course we all are interacted with one app or the other, or in fact just using a phone or any digital device you interacted with UI UX, but you might not have been conscious of this, but now you know. Now you have publication design. Basically, this is about designing books. So from your layout of books, your design of magazine, newspapers, and also e-books. Yeah. So for your newspaper, your magazine, Any type of printing publication falls under publication design. Let's move on. Packaging design. Packaging design, well, as the word goes, it's about design of packages. Design packages for products, and now these designs are actually very important as to as these things actually to some extent affects how our customers interact with these products. It affects sales. So this is why these things have sections. There are people who do package design full time. Motion design, animated graphics for videos, arts, and social media. Now, I should believe to a very good extent we all know what graphic design is. So, graphic design is still for motion design. It's going to take that still graphic design and it's going to animate it. It's going to make it move. So, it's going to turn it into a video to make it more interactive, more interesting, and more captivating. Yeah. Environmental design. So from your signboard, your signage, your exhibition stand, and any design for physical spaces. Look at this image right here. This is signage for road users. So there are people who design for the environment, illustration and digital art. I should believe you all know what art is. So illustration and digital art is about bringing art from the traditional sense into the digital space. So you are from your drawings, any type of art that usually where you use your hand, but now you are doing it, you are executing it on a digital device. An example is what we have over here. So that's it for type of design. Now, mind you, there are other type of design, but these are the major ones we have to know for this class. Yeah, moving on. Elements of design. Okay. Now, any type of design you see out there, any type of design from any type of company or whatever, there are basics to design. There are things that every design is going to have. These are the elements of design. So whenever you are looking at a design, you definitely need to have these elements. There's no way around it. These elements are what designers use to make designs. They add it together to make designs. Now let's go right into it. This line. Uh, I'm sure you all know what line is here, but for documentation purpose, let's go through it over again. So line is a mark that connects two points. It can be straight, it can be curved, thick or thin. Examples are the type of lines that are shown here. We have a straight thin line over here. We have the curved line. We have the wavy line. This is a thick one, and this is a dotted line. Now I don't believe this needs. I don't believe it. I don't believe this needs much explanation. Now we have shape. Still believe you all know what shape is. You have your rectangular shape. You have your square. You have your circle. You have pentagon and irregular shapes here. Rectangle, your circle, your polygon, and you also have regular shapes. So whenever you say design, these are what makes up a design. There are shapes everywhere in design. Now let's move to colors. So colors add moods meaning an attraction to design. There's color everywhere. The terminologies when it comes to color. You have your hue, HUE, hue. So that's basically the name of the color: red, blue, yellow, green, whatever. Then you have value. Value is how light or dark a color is here. So even though you might have a blue, it can be dark, it can be bright, it can be many shades, it can be many colors. It comes in different lightness and darkness. You also have saturation, how bright or dull a color is. So your color can be very sharp. That's the color itself as its purest form. Then you can have its that can turn it into black or almost black. By the time it's black, well, it won't be your color again. It will be black. But now you can actually reduce your brightness or your sharpness from the brightest form to black, yeah, or gray. You have a color wheel. We are going to be working with this a lot. So this is a tool that shows the relationship between colors. Now we have colors, but they are also related to each other, and it's going to define how we use them in design. Color relationships. You have primary color, you have blue, yellow, and red. So these are the base for all other colors. So any other colors out there are formed by combination of these three colors. So these three colors are the most basic type of color here. You can't get it by addition of other colors. But instead, it's these colors you add together to get any other type of color here. Now we have secondary colors, your green, orange, and purple. These are colors we get by mixing any of these three colors. So combination of these three colors, not all, but combination of two, any two of these colors is going to give us these green, orange, and purple. So red and blue is going to give us purple, yeah. Blue and yellow is going to give us green, and red and yellow is going to give us orange. So these are secondary colors. Now we have tertiary colors. It's a mix of primary and secondary colors. So once you have your primary colors already, and you put in our secondary colors by combining our primary colors. Now you can add our new secondary colors with our primary color to give us our tertiary colors. Color schemes. Color schemes. Yeah. So we have. So this is about how this color relates with each other. This is actually our color wheel. So the color wheel is a circular chart that shows how colors relate to each other. It helps designers to choose color combinations that look good together. Now let's go over it. Complementary colors. Colors opposites on the wheel. Now these are wheel, and you can see it's been divided for us, and we can't see here. It's very clear which color is opposite which. So our green is opposite red. Now these two, these are complementary colors here. Purple, blue is opposite yellow. Now which one again? These cyan is opposite orange. Yeah, orange color. We have analogous colors, colors next to each other. So instead of complementary, which is opposite, these Analogous colors are colors that are beside each other. Your this color and this color, this color and this color, this and this, they're analogous because they're beside each other. We also have monochromatic color scheme, different shades and tones of one color. So what this means is you take one color and remember we've talked about value here, how light or dark a color is. So you are going to take a color and you're just going to create different shades for that particular color, that same color. So you can have your red, or within your red you can have a very light red, you can have a very sharp red, you can have hundreds of shades within just one color. Yeah. Typography. Typography is the style and arrangement of text and letters in design. You all know what typography is. This, what you're looking at right here, is typography. Or this, anything you can read is typography. Yeah. Now, with terminologies in typography, you have your typeface. So this is the style of your letter. There are different typeface. You have your Arial, your Times New Roman, your Calibri. Basically, are just different design for your typeface. Now, look at this. Look at these elements over here. You can see how it is written. It's kind of tall and bold. Now, look at this off over here. And see that it has a different design. Still the same English we are looking at, but it has a different form. Yeah. So font size. Our fonts for this class, we're just going to say our typeface. It's also the same as fonts. So for the class we're going to hold next week, we're going to discuss about the difference between typeface and fonts. But for now, let's just say our typeface is also the same as fonts. Now font size is just how big or small the text appears. Our elements here, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. That's our font size. The weight is the thickness of the letter. Alright, look at the typography over here. Look at how bold, how thick it is. Now look at all the typeface over here. You can see that it's kind of smaller, not just in size, but in terms of weight. Now we have spacing. There are different, there are three types of spacing in typography. You have the kerning, the leading, and the tracking. What does kerning means? So kerning is basically the space between two letters. The space between two letters. Let's come over here. Okay, let's use this as an example. Elements of design. Now this uh, phrase right here is a combination of letters. You have your E, your A, your E, your M, and so on. Now your kerning is going to determine the space between your E and your L, the space between your F and your E, the space between your this over here and this F. Now that's kerning. Leading the space between lines of text. As you can see, our lines here are horizontal. So the leading is the space between this line and this line. Let me see if I can zoom in. So our leading is the space between this kerning line and this leading line, the space between this tracking line and this main font category. Now you have paragraph, or let me say a typography page that has maybe 4 to 5, in fact 2 paragraphs, you can't use the same reading throughout. You have to space some lines so as to uh, categorize the whole typography, which helps in tracking where you are reading, and makes it appear cleaner for the readers. Now you also have tracking, the space between groups of letters, or you can just say words, element of design. Again, even though we have our letters, they are still grouped into words. We have elements here, we have off over here, and we have design over here. So our tracking is the space between elements and off, the space between off and design. I hope you get that. Now in typography, there are different types of uh, typography. I would have said two major types at some level. You can say two, but for more understanding, let's say okay, we have four over here, and there are actually more than four. But I think if you can understand this four, that's okay for now. So we have serif, the serif font, we have your sans serif font, we have your scripts, and we have your display. Serif fonts are fonts with small feet or strokes at the end, e.g., Times New Roman, often for formal and traditional writing. Fonts, so there are fonts with small feet and strokes at the end here. So an example is this. Let's look at this over here. Now looking at serif fonts, okay, here's a very good example. This over here. So you can see the small feet at the edges of each letter. You can see all the letters over here. They have small feet at the end of each stroke. Now that's serif font. Now you have sans serif fonts. Fonts without feet, plain and modern. So they are just serif fonts but without the feet. An example is this. And you can say this is clean, this is very simple. There are no feet at the edges. You can see. We also have script fonts. Fonts that looks like handwritten or calligraphy. Here's an example. So they look like they are written by hand, but no, they are also typography. We also have display and decorative fonts. So creative fonts used for titles and attention grabbing designs. Let's look at this. Now these are the fonts that are used specifically for display, and they can be used for long paragraphs or whatever. They're just used for headings and subheadings. We also have our texture. So how something looks or feel. Now most design these days are digital, so you can't actually touch them, so you can't feel. So what we can do, the only thing you can do most of the times, the only thing you can do is see it. So we are going to see how it looks. How it looks. Looking at this, we can see this glass texture over here. You can see this row of texture over here. Something like your wall. It has a rough texture. You have the plastic texture over here, and you have the paper texture over here, you have the wood texture over here. And graphic design use this to depict textures. Now this, well, obviously this is not a natural glass, it's an image of a glass. But graphic designers they use this to make it look so you can feel even though you are not touching it, you can actually feel the texture. We have our space. The area around and between objects is area around and between objects, positive and negative space. Look at this image right here. You have your square over here, you have your circle over here. Now there is a space in between. There's a space in between. You can't do without space in design. There's a space all around. These are spaces all over here. And see space. You just have to make use of space. That's all. That's we have form. 3D objects that have depth like cubes of spheres. That is 3D forms. That is 3D forms. Now these are not shapes. These are not shapes, but they are objects that give the illusion of 3D. They are objects that give the illusion of 3D. Yeah? And we use them in design a lot. Throughout the next 4 3 weeks, we're going to be using this a lot. Treated the elements of design. We treated the elements of design. You can see it right here. I'll be using a different document right now, but we are still teaching the same thing, right? So we have the elements over here. We've gone through that, your line, your shape, your texture, your color, yeah. But now these are the things, the physical things you see in designs. So any that if I said any design you see out there, they are formed by the combination of these things. Now you have elements, but for you to have a good graphic, for you to have a good design, you have to use these elements in accordance to some principles. So there are conventional principles in graphic design. Yeah? You use your elements according to these principles, and you can use these principles very well against the commerce with a good design. You have your balance, your rhythm, your unity, your proximity, alignment, emphasis, dominance, white space, contrast, typography, and grid structure. Every design, every design, just as it has elements, every design also has principles. When I say principles, I mean all these, all designs out there, they have all, all, all these balance, rhythm, unity, proximity, everything they are in the designs. Balance. Now, when we look at publications and documents, we have some form of visual balance or visual weight of different graphic elements in layouts. There are two main types of balance. We have the symmetrical and we have the asymmetrical. The symmetrical balance, publications with symmetrical balance are ones that have an equal distribution of visual weight. All the elements on the page are centered and balanced. It is generally seen as equal visual weight that can be described as having mirror reflection vertically or horizontally. Symmetrical balance. Now let's look at the image we have here. So the idea behind symmetrical balance is that all sides, all sides of this of each page is going to have equal weight, equal weight, equal weight. Let's look at this right here. You have a rectangle over here. You have the same rectangle over here. So that at the end of the day, you have some kind of uh, a wholeness. Everything, even though they are different, everything still gives like one single, one single element. Look at this over here. We have two shapes over here that are joined by proximity. You have a small rectangle over here. You have another one over here. Then you have another one over here. But even though they are facing different directions, they still have equal weight. Now that's symmetrical balance. That's symmetrical balance. Symmetrical design can communicate stability strengths which are appropriate for traditional or conservative piece, often used by banks, lawyers, and medical profession documents. Now we have the asymmetrical balance. Instead of symmetrical balance, you can have asymmetrical balance, which is when publications have a layout that have a number of elements arranged in an order that can be rotated to a particular side of a document. Let's look at this design over here. So contrary to the example that was shown before, you have a text over here at the top left corner. Then you have an image over here. You have two cups over here. Now they don't have the same width or the same height. However, however, at the end of the day, there is still going to be a balance in this, even though they are not exactly the same. Asymmetrical layouts are generally more dynamic, and by intentionally ignoring balance, the designer can create tension, express movement, contrast, fluidity, or convey mood, such as anger, excitement, joy, or casual amusement. Rhythm and proportion. Rhythm and proportion. This is another principle in graphic design. In most publications, now, whenever you see publications, just know that we are talking about design in general. In most publications, rhythm is used to create movement and is reflected in the repetition of elements in varied patterns. The two key aspects of rhythm are repetition and variation. There are mentions of DTP over here. DTP means desktop publishing, but right now, whenever you see DTP, just think of for this class, we're talking about design in general, not just DTP. Yeah. So we have repetition, the repeat of elements throughout design, throughout documents. Then we have variation, change in size, placement, style of elements. Repetition is about repeating elements, while variation is about change in size, a change in placement, and a change in style. Repetition helps to unify a piece. Without use of variation, repetition can be boring. Many pages of identical columns of text should be varied with the use of headlines, sub-headlines, and images. Yeah, let's go by repetition of colors, patterns, shapes, and words. So the blue of the girl skirt is echoed in the blue writing of the word and the blue title. If you look at this image over here, there's a repetition of a certain color blue. There's the text written on the wall is blue, the color of the skirt is blue, and the color of this title by is also blue. Now that's repetition. That's repetition of color. We also have the repetition of patterns and shapes. The main background is a repeating brick pattern. The skate also contains a repeating pattern. Let's look at the brick over here. The wall. The combination of bricks, repetition of bricks. Also the skate has a pattern over it. The words on the wall repeat over and over. So this text keeps repeating, and that's a good example of repetition. Yeah. So have proximity. Remember, we are still talking about the principles of design. We have proximity. Now, designs can be dramatically altered by simply rearranging the layout of certain elements, by adjusting the spacing between a number of design elements to create close proximity. Now, proximity allows information and content to be presented a lot easier, quicker, and more enjoyable to read to users. Let's look at this image over here. Now, before you even see, before you even read the text, before you know what's going on over here, you can feel and see how all the elements over here are divided. You have the text over here, you have shapes over here, even though they are not connected, you uh, can still feel that they are grouped by the way they are close to each other and how how close they are to each other and how far away they are. So that means we have another shape over here, another shape over here, another shape over here. Now these three can say they are grouped together. You have text over here, you have columns of text over here. Now you can say this another group, this is another group. Yeah. Alignment. Alignment. Alignment of elements can help improve the layout structure of a design. Alignments will often vary from one layout to another. As with all layouts, it depends on the purpose of the design and target market is aimed for. The alignment of a design can be shown through the structure of body of text within a design and the positioning of various elements in the design. So because of our time. Now we also have our emphasis and dominance. Emphasis and dominance. So all graphic design always have emphasis, they always have dominance. Some elements are going to be more emphasized. So emphasis happens when an item is made more eye-catching. Dominance occurs when one item stands out more than the other. It dominates the layout. An example, a very good example is this. Dominance placed on the graphic on top. Dominance placed on the graphic on the top right of the page. This over here, the largest element on the page facing a focal point. So let me guess the first thing you saw this page over here, this image right here. Yeah. Now has been created in the headline, the structured body text with bearing background color as well as reverse text in the layout. Emphasis. So by the time, even though this is the first thing you see, by the time you actually decide to know what this is about, this over here and this are the first things you are going to look at. And by reading this, you can actually have an idea of what this is about. This will be all for this lecture. I really hope we learned one or two things throughout this lecture, and in the next We took, I mean, 3 4 weeks. For those that will be going into graphic design, we'll be going deeper into this, and after that, we go straight into the practical aspects where we start actually making designs such as this. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. See you next week.